I personally have been buying shares of the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF SCHD for several years now, and for some proof, this is just one of my portfolios where you can see back in 2023, I was buying 1, 2, sometimes more shares of SCHD every single day. Now, so far this year, you can see in 2024 in this portfolio, I've also been getting pretty busy and buying shares of SCHD pretty much every single day or so. So much so to the point to where as of right now, I'm finally gathering what I would consider a large position in this ETF. Now in this video, we're going to go over exactly how many shares of SCHD I've been able to acquire after buying the shares basically every single day over the last few years, how much dividend income I now earn on a quarterly basis from my SCHD shares, and lastly, maybe most importantly, what I plan on doing long term and why I keep buying so much SCHD. So if you personally own any shares of SCHD, or maybe you've ever thought of it, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, because I promise you, you are not going to want to miss a thing. I just finished my brand new dividend investing ebook where I share exactly how I went from zero to now over 7 figures invested, and also on how I earn more than $6,000 per month in dividends. I also finished my custom dividend tracker that you can use to track your dividend income progress on an ongoing basis. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. So SCHD, the ETF that I'm talking about, of course, is the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, which is one of the most popular, if not the most popular ETFs for dividend growth investors across the entire world. Now, this ETF caught my eye a long time ago, not only because of its popularity, but the fact that it has a very relatively cheap expense ratio of just 0.06%. The ETF has a bulletproof objective to track as closely as possible before fees and expenses the total return of the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index, which is an index comprised of high-quality dividend-paying stocks that have to pass rigorous screenings to even get allowed into. The reason I'm such a fan of SCHD is because this ETF basically offers everything that I want as a dividend growth investor. The ETF offers long-term capital appreciation potential, considering the ETF has grown over 207%, and this is over the past decade or so. Not to mention SCHD is basically trading at all-time highs, which is crazy because when SCHD was trading well below $70 per share, a lot of investors were calling this ETF for dead. But like I said a second ago, the ETF offers basically everything I want in a dividend growth ETF. It offers growth as far as ETF price. It offers a basket of holdings, which I'm pretty fond of. I say pretty because some of the top holdings as of right now are not my favorite holdings. Although SCHD does go through a yearly reconstitution, which is happening very soon here. So the top holdings are going to get moved around once again. And some of the names that aren't performing as well will most likely be gone, which will make the ETF even stronger than before. But the ETF's growth, the holdings, the fact that the expense ratio is super cheap, which makes this ETF very cheap to own, especially when you do get up to, say, hundreds or maybe even thousands of shares of SCHD long term, and the fact that SCHD offers a greater than 3% trailing 12-month dividend yield, which side note, back when this ETF was trading below $67 per share, I think investors like myself were grabbing shares of SCHD with above a 4% trailing 12-month. Now, maybe one of the most important metrics for me as a long-term dividend growth investor that does currently have a pretty diverse portfolio, stick around until the end because I will show you my exact portfolio. But one of the main metrics that I'm really fond of when it comes to long-term investing is dividend growth rate, or basically how much in dividends you're going to earn year over year from an investment. Now, a lot of the holdings in my long-term portfolio don't necessarily have a super great dividend growth rate. What I mean by that is, let's say a stock or ETF pays 20 cents per month, and then the next year pays 20 cents per month, and then the year after that pays maybe 21 cents per month. So long-term, you're not really earning all that much more money, which is okay in certain scenarios, but an ETF or stock that does offer a large dividend growth rate is definitely a bonus. And as you can see right here, which I've been showing you on the screen, SCHD has paid more and more in dividends basically every single year, more or less, as time went on. And just as of last December, paid a 74-cent quarterly dividend payout, which is pretty massive. Now, this is very important to me, and one of the main reasons on why I'm gathering so many shares of this ETF and why I have been over the last 2 years is the fact that let's say I earn X or Y in dividends today or tomorrow, well, that amount hopefully will increase over time even after I stop buying shares. For example, let's say an investor did something similar to what I'm doing right now, gathering as many shares of SCHD, buying shares consistently on a daily basis like I showed you guys earlier. If this investor did this back in 2013, for example, this ETF at that time was paying around $0.25 per share per quarter. Now, if that investor just held on to every share that they gathered, let's say over a year or so, and just never even purchased another share, their dividend income would not only double, but would be up around 3 times as much just around 10 years later. Now, this is significant, especially for investors out there that are trying to build out a portfolio that's going to become a compounding machine, and significant for investors like myself that don't have unlimited funds, unlimited cash balance to keep throwing into the market. Because when you buy into a stock or ETF that pays a decent dividend, but also pays more and more long term, you're going to get paid more and more for doing absolutely nothing. Now, lastly, for those that are still watching the video, first of all, thank you. And second of all, make sure to like the video. But for those that are curious, I currently have around 571 shares of SCHD across all of my portfolios. And I say this because I do have shares of SCHD across multiple portfolios, and I haven't done a final tally in a few days, but more or less we're sitting at around 571 shares as of right now. Now, this is exactly what I've been able to do by buying, like I said, 1 to 2, sometimes 3 shares of SCHD every single day now for over the last 2 years or so. And although those daily purchases of SCHD, whether it's trading at $60, $70, or $80 per share, might not seem all that significant, over time it definitely has added up to quite a substantial amount, now making the position well over $35,000 of value. Now, my current average cost for SCHD across all my portfolios is somewhere around $71 or $72, which means I'm not only up pretty substantially now on my actual shares, which doesn't really necessarily matter because let's be real here, we both know that I'm not going to sell any of these shares anytime soon here. In longer term, I do want to get to 1,000 shares of this ETF, which I'm hopefully going to be able to do before the end of this year, if not early next year. There's no rush really. But also very important, my yield on cost is pretty high, over 4% yield on cost, because of course I bought so many shares when this ETF was much cheaper. Not to mention my average monthly dividend amount when it comes to SCHD is currently around $138. Now, what's so significant about the $130 per month, more or less, or the $1,650 per year that I earn dividends from the 571 shares of SCHD? Some of you might be looking at that and saying, wow, that's not all that much dividend income considering you've invested so long and so much money into the ETF. And what I would simply say is to refer back to the dividend growth rate. SCHD on average has paid 7, 8, 9, 10% more in dividends year over year during multiple times in history. So if SCHD doubles the dividend, let's say in the next 5 years, this 138, if I never purchased another share of SCHD, would be $280 or so. And honestly, of course, it could be much higher than that, or maybe even a little bit lower. But my basic idea here, my basic strategy is that I'm buying into a high quality diversified asset every single day that I'm not only hopefully going to get more and more money as far as price return, but also I'm going to get paid along the way, and on top of that, get paid more and more from the dividend growth rate. Now, my longer term plan is to get to the 1,000 shares of SCHD and then probably divert some of my cash balance into some other high quality dividend growth ETFs like VU, VYM, or maybe some more DGRW. But either way, just after 2 years of investing very consistently into SCHD, I'm pretty proud of my 571 shares that I'm currently holding as of right now. But lastly, now I want to hear from you guys down below. Do you personally currently own any shares of SCHD? And if so, how many shares do you have as of right now? Drop it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.